post-match thoughts. Just wanted to get. We haven't had a chance, myself and Ash and yourself, Keith. But what did you guys think of the game? I'll start with yourself, Keith. What was your thoughts on how the game went, and what sort of stood out for you? Those types of things against our performance against the Broncos.
Yeah, in a weird way, deja vu, without it being actually deja vu. One of those scrappy wins where you can't be replicating it. But I guess I'm now at the stage where I'm like, we're finding a way to win. So that's awesome. I'm not going to lie. I was celebrating Greek Easter as my wife's half Greek on Saturday. And it's the first time since 2019 that all the Easters have aligned in terms of their dates. So I'd had a fair few whiskeys by the time I was watching the actual game. So this afternoon I went back and watched the full game again in preparation for this show. And I guess the general comment is the effort. The effort was there. They're playing for the badge, and they're playing for the fans, and they're playing for each other. And eventually it's got to gel in the halves. We'll find a way. We're winning. Let's be really positive about this. I'm pumped that we're top 4 somehow. Don't ask me how. But we almost blew that lead. I was getting heckled by everyone around me, and it was such a Warriors thing to do. I was like, why this fucking team? Every time we can't hold the lead. I think it even happened in the Jersey Flag or the SG Ball or something.
Yeah, Jersey Flag.
How do we get that far ahead as an entire club across so many grades and blow the lead every time? But we won, so I'll take it.
It's something about Kiwi. I don't know what it is, but we just get so relaxed. it's the culture over here, man. When it's good, it's too good sometimes, So, but it's been symptomatic. We all understand that. But for yourself, Ash, what did you take away from that game? I mean, 4-2, we're looking pretty good right now. We can't complain. But what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's overall a real scrappy game. I thought both teams, attacking-wise, couldn't really get much going due to the conditions over there in Auckland. So shout out to all you guys who have had to deal with the cyclone over there. I didn't keep in touch of how much damage or whatever happened with the cyclone over in New Zealand, but I hope everyone's doing safe out there and all that. But yeah, I think that didn't help us in any sort of way of, seeing maybe improvement in the halves, maybe attacking shape or anything in that sort of aspect. Also with obviously coming to the game down on, no CNK, no Fish. There was a lot of changes in those areas as well, mainly CNK. So Tane is probably, playing off the back of, in a game full of wet, he probably couldn't get himself into incredible shape to really, work down the outsides. And similar with the Broncos as well, I thought that, that probably lent to both maybe our aspect of the game as well, being the Broncos and how they'd like to play attacking footy with Reece Walsh out the back of shape, even though they're not doing that too well this year. The wet weather footy has kind of compacted everything and it made it an effort type game, which, as Keith obviously pointed out. And it looked like that we definitely played hard for the jersey there, and it was so great to see. You guys already know my love affair for Leka Lasima. It's so good to see him continue to step up his game bit by bit. But also just, I think all our juniors, we touched on the backstage a little bit, Levon, about all our youngsters coming through and how much they're kind of stepping up to the plate. I thought Dimitri had a lot of really good moments in that game as well, coming off the bench. And even Laban for his short period of time, not so much in the attacking end, but defensively, I thought that he held himself real handily and put on a couple of really nice shots there. So I think effort-wise, everything was really nice. Would have been nice, obviously, to get the extra conversions to kind of put it out to where I kind of felt like we deserved it to be a little bit. I feel like as soon as we missed that last conversion, the Broncos felt a little bit of a sniff, and that's the reason why they came back hard with that momentum. I feel like if, Metcalf would have slot that one for 15, just outside of that little bit of angle, I think that kind of would have put a little bit more of a dagger into the Broncos, and we probably could have seen this maybe an easier run home. But we like to make it hard ourselves, Keith? It must be just the entertainment in us. I don't know what it is. Since the day one as a Warriors fan, we just love entertainment over here.
Yeah, well, it's like I think every fan, including myself, I don't want to speak for everyone out there, but is like, we love Metcalf and we wouldn't take him from the team. And the things that he's doing the best, we all notice, but it's not the usual things that you'd expect of a halfback. So he gets the 50-meter goal, but he misses all the other goal kicks. And we're going through this teething phase where we're still winning. And the teething phase is for the halves. Chanel is mirroring, maybe not to the degree of Jerome Luai with the Panthers, but you can see that same kind of energetic 5'8", all about the vibe, all about the energy, occasional big hits, etc. if we can just pass this teething phase that Luke Metcalf is going through in terms of learning how to manage a game, and then we'll be sort of premiership material after that, I reckon.
Yeah, and like for me, I think like for the for the back of that too, it's like I think that his general play kicking and majority of those little areas of Metcalf is actually not too bad. Like I think he's fine in that sort of aspect. I think the main thing we're really wanting, and I think a lot of people will be talking about, is especially with our attacking shape and a bit more direction in the point of like get me here, here, here. Sort of like you look at the opposite end for Adam Reynolds, very good at, when the Broncos are getting into a good attacking shape, he gets into a point and he kind of leads off the back of that shape and ends up turning into points. I think that's the next part of Metcalf's game where he needs to get to, because obviously he's a running threat. I think his in-game kicking is actually not too bad in the aspect of that game. Beautiful 40-20 in that game. A lot of good kicks to the corner. I think Chanel's helping him in that area as well. I think it's just that little added step, and I think that's probably the last piece of the puzzle that we're waiting to see, which is going to take a little bit more time, I think. But it is right. You're 100% right. It's still a little bit of a teething period at the moment. I think it's just a little bit more patience in that area would be nice. And again, as I said before, I think the game, as in the wet weather footy, and that probably didn't help in the area of seeing any progression, because it came back to just playing, back in behind the ruck and kind of beat him through the middle, if that makes sense. So it just didn't look, it just looked clunky. And I feel like it looked clunky for the Broncos as well. It wasn't just our inexperienced halves in my eyes anyway.
Keith, do you think that's more so to do with other, I've talked about the ball playing lock. Do you think those other roles, because we've lost that experience, that has maybe impacted on the halves a bit? Or I saw Tane starting to inject himself a bit more than what I would see maybe CNK of late, to kind of help out. What do you put it down to? Is there other surrounding factors that are impacting the halves?
Well, I don't think you need to be a rugby league oracle to realise that Andrew Webster has changed our attack to make Wade Egan basically the chief attacking director. Yeah. And I think Chance has got even more of a role as well. So whereas before we were just going through, the 7 and the 6, now we seem to be going through the 9 and the 1 just as often, if not more often in certain games. And it's creating a completely different dynamic. So fans that were used to the way that traditional halves play, like we had with Sean Johnson for the past few years, are now seeing a completely different way of approaching each set. And if we were going to play a more conventional style, we would need to. There's only one player that we could use, and that's Tanner Boyd. He's, love him or hate him, whether you rate him or not, he was an Australian schoolboy half. He has an amazing kicking game, amazing goal kicker, mind you. I would say maybe his ceiling's not as high as Luke Metcalf, so I think we should keep persevering with Luke Metcalf. But we've got this weird dynamic where more of our attack comes from our number 9 than most other clubs. And I think that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that point. I actually watching the game back, and I clearly saw the difference between Egan and Pay and Walters. I was like, bro, Egan is really leading this team around the park. And it is a difference for a lot of fans, and I think a lot of fans are trying to adapt to what that looks like. And I know it's still early days as well, but I think you're bang on there, is that we're going to have to get used to kind of looking at it a little bit differently. And look, for example, we haven't seen a double lead block shape this year pretty much. And that's not to say that's a bad thing. It's just to say that we're doing different things this year. Still ultimately getting similar results, maybe points-wise, not heaps yet, but I think it's just sort of those things where you're thinking other players in different roles and responsibilities. Obviously, Webby has adjusted things. And like you said, if you're really watching the game and understanding the game, you would see that the way he's setting things up is so much more different. You got a thought on that, Ash, around Egan and his influence?
Yeah, 100%. I was kind of thinking, I kind of made this comment a little bit ago in the WhatsApp chat on how we could make this halves pairing work. And, obviously the Melbourne Storm are a variable in a sort of way of just their system of how they've made this work over for such a long period of time. And, Craig Bellamy is the coach that he is, but there was the period there where they were trying to make Jerome Hughes into a halfback and, obviously next to Cam Munster, and they wanted Munster to step up to become more of a playmaker. But, Matty Johns has come out and talked about it and said, Munster was very scared about doing that. He was, he took away from his best aspects of the game. And I think when they had someone like Cam Smith that was really directive and he got them to all the points they need to be on the field, they could allow to fall back on like Jerome Hughes to be a runner again and Munster to be a runner again and play off the back of that sort of thing. And I think that for me, when I was looking at the way we run our football side at the moment, Wade Egan, I'm not calling him Cam Smith in any sort of way, but I think he's one of the closest hookers that we have in this day and age to becoming like a Cam Smith sort of player, to being so vital to an attacking, set of football, right? To where you can allow like Metcalf to become more of a running type of halfback, or allow him to kind of bet himself into becoming a halfback later on down the track. And we may see the improvement sort of similar to what we saw with Jerome Hughes in the Melbourne Storm. As it continued to go down, like that's just a thought at the top of my head. It's a lot easier said than done because the Melbourne Storm have proven to do it again and again and again. And more times than other sides that have tried to do it, like, the Gold Coast Titans are trying to do it with Jaden Campbell at the moment. And there's a little bit of success where they do see it, and there's other moments where you don't see it. The Tigers are kind of showing at the moment with Jerome Luai trying to move himself into that 7 jersey, and they're having teething problems in that sort of area as well. But I think that for it to make it work, it's kind of looking back to that 2020 Melbourne Storm side of Cam Smith directing him, getting him around, and they were, one of the better attacking side, if not the best attacking side in that year, to get over the top of the Penrith Panthers to win that in the grand final there. So I think that's the kind of envisionment I have for this side. If it was going to work, is Wade Egan would just have to, obviously take full control of the ruck, get him to all the points of the field, and our halves kind of just, when need to settle and they need to take the play, they play eyes up footy in some sort of way, they can just go on and take it. So I definitely agree with that sentiment. I think that's probably the best way to look at our side at the moment.
Also, go Keith. You got a thought, Keith? Or
just a quick one that I agree with what Ash was saying. The Melbourne analogy is actually the perfect one because you got traditional fullbacks. You got basically 3 fullbacks in the spine there that have been able to take advantage of the plug and play style system that all the grades that are coming through the Melbourne Storm have learnt from. Basically, I don't know if they're in Harold Matts, but as far back as that system goes, and that's something that we're trying to replicate as a club as well. So quite frankly, I don't care if our New South Wales Cup, Jersey Flag, SG Ball teams win or not. I care if I'm seeing the same kind of systems being learnt consistently throughout the grades, so that if players do need to change and Wayne Egan goes down or whatever it might be, we can have players that just, we can bring up and they know exactly what their role is. We're not there yet. So I think Webby has had to completely revamp the way we attack, and rightly so. Last year wasn't a good year at all, but we lost Sean Johnson, of course, in retirement. So I'm hoping that, completely revamping the way that our spine attacks, maybe this is the last year where we're sort of like really having to change and go right back to the drawing board and come out with something that we haven't seen any remnants of whatsoever, because the juniors are starting to come through. This is our second year with all the grades from memory. So that's only going to get better and better. I just, as I said, I don't care whether our junior grades win. I care if I see them mirroring what our NRL team is doing. Yeah. That's what we are. I don't think we're there yet because we're seeing a complete revamp of the attack.
And on that aspect as well, even our best season under Webby in 2023, our attacking shape and all that didn't really come into effect till mid to late in that year. Obviously, Metcalf came into that jersey and we started playing that right side, shape that everyone talks about. And even then, looking back to statistically, we weren't an incredible attacking side that year. Obviously, we played everything on the back of defense. If you actually look on, I think it was a Rugby League Project, you go check out our stats comparatively to Penrith and stuff. I think we were only scoring at 22 points per game, which is mid-pack. But a lot of that came from a lot of our earlier games. We weren't really, we were having moments of everything was coming together, but it just wasn't coming until mid to late. So maybe, we're probably going to see, as we continue to say with, Webby systems and stuff, just wait till probably those little mid to lates to really start to see the working and the progression and how our attack goes. Obviously, it is a little bit teething and it's kind of frustrating in some aspects as well, because I feel like last year we had waited, but due to a lot of other circumstances, we just weren't able to get to that point to see the full thing come together. But this year, we've set a really good base of, at the moment, 4-2. We're winning games on the back of effort and defense in areas, kind of holding in and all those sort of aspects of the game. So we're holding a really nice, solid base. It's just when we start to really find ourselves and really connect, that's when we're going to start seeing everything. So mid to late this year, hopefully, if everything kind of runs its track, that should be where we kind of find a lot of success.